Welcome into Sportsmemo's betting podcast for April 2nd. It's Tuesday. That means $2 Tuesday at sportsmemo.com. Top play in the NHL from Alex B. Smith is discounted to just $2. That's today. Today's podcast is about college basketball. We're doing tonight's Final Four in the NIT. Also on tonight's college basketball card with mid-major Matt. He's Matt Josephs. Welcome into the podcast. How you doing today, Matt?
Good, Drew. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. We got a very interesting card for tonight as far as college basketball. We'll also get your thoughts on the real Final Four going this weekend. I know you do have a play up tonight. You can get that at sportsmemo.com. It says NIT Tuesday top play, and he's 13-7 his last 23 plays. So doing pretty well in college basketball, hitting a nice streak here, Matt. So hopefully we can get the listeners on some right sides tonight. But tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern tip on ESPN, the first Final Four matchup in the NIT. We got Wichita State versus Lipscomb. Looks like a pick'em. You might be able to find it Lipscomb +1 right now at Bookmaker. 150.5 the total. How do you view this one?
This is an interesting game because you've got a Lipscomb team, actually both of these teams, who won 3 road games to get to this situation. So neither of them have actually been home since joining the NIT. You've got a Lipscomb team. I don't know how many people were watching last week, but that NC State game on the road was a high-level game between Lipscomb and NC State. Obviously, the Bisons were the number 1 seed in the A-Sun. They did not win their conference tournament. They lost at home to Liberty, but they didn't, sulk too much about it. They've been pretty good this year. If you look at what they've done, they're 11-2 against the spread in non-conference games so far this year, and 8-2 as an underdog. Well, that tells you 2 things. A, they're pretty good as an underdog, and B, they haven't been an underdog very often this year. They run a very crisp offense, a lot of cuts. They got some open shots. The Matthews kid, the Marbury kid, they're 2 very good players themselves. And then you've got a Wichita State team that wasn't very good to start out the year because they had lost so much from last year. But with a guy like Greg Marshall who has focused his team in, and I've actually read some articles how they've changed their offense a little bit during this postseason run, which has made them a little bit tougher. They want to slow you down. They want to play a little bit more defense. Marcus McDuffie is their veteran leader, but they've got some other guys and some decent size inside. They're going to be the bigger team of the 2. They're probably going to also have the coaching edge with a guy like Greg Marshall in this game, and you've seen it. You know, Lipscomb open as a slight favorite. It's a pick'em. There's even some places where Lipscomb's an underdog, so there's some Wichita State money coming in. I wanted to take Lipscomb this start, but I'm kind of buying into the move a little bit now, Wichita State being the favorite in this one tonight.
Yeah, great breakdown, Matt. And you bring up the fact of Wichita State changing things on offense, and it's something, the listeners out there that listen to this podcast all the time know. It's change, in my opinion, is the best way to win in sports betting. If you can find change, especially when other people don't see it, that is a great way to win in this business. And when you say you're reading articles about Wichita State changing on offense, is there anything we can use going forward tonight, and if they're lucky enough to make it to the championship game, as far as betting Wichita State totals-wise? Did they slow it down? Did they speed it up? What exactly did they change?
Well, it's not so much the totals. It's how they kind of run their offense. They're doing a lot more ball screens and pick and rolls, and they're kind of forcing you to either go after their long-range guys in McDuffie or Dennis, or kind of look at their inside guys, Echenike and the Midgard kid, who's having a decent postseason as well. I don't know so much if it changes their totals as such, because, they went under at Indiana in a 73-63 game. They went under at Clemson 63-55. And that was after 3 straight overs against Furman, Cincinnati, and Temple. So I don't know necessarily if Lipscomb wants to run, and Lipscomb's offense is highly efficient, but we've given Greg Marshall plenty of time to kind of prepare for him. And so I like Greg Marshall with a little bit of extra time to school his kids up. And I think that Wichita State's going to be very motivated in this game with such a young team getting extra reps.
Okay. All right. Good stuff there, Matt. Would you rather do the next NIT game or head to the Hampton Marshall game?
Let's head to the Hampton Marshall game, because my play tonight is in the Texas TCU game tonight. There's a side that I like in this one, so we'll just let the listeners go to the website and find out for themselves if they go and purchase the play for tonight.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, we got Texas TCU TCU, 137.5. Looks like TCU -2 or -1.5. And TCU's the last remaining 1 seed in the NIT. Alex Robinson at the point guard position. Overall, a very good defense, especially 3-point defense. Number 20 in the country in that. Texas, hey, they find themselves in the semis, the Final Four of the NIT. Kerman Roach is back. So angles for both sides, I guess you could say. Totals-wise, sitting at 137.5. This one in Madison Square Garden. And if you want to get Matt Joseph's top play for tonight, check it out at Sportsmemo.com. And guys, we do have a coupon code MATT69 at checkout. We'll give you mid-major Matt Joseph's next 7 days all access for just $69. That's $50 off the retail price at sportsmemo.com. Great deal here for MATT69 is the coupon code. His 7-day all access pass. You'll get MLB, you'll get college basketball, every play he releases for just $69 for the next 7 days, and that's MATT69 at checkout. Less than $10 a day. So let's go to 7 p.m. Eastern tip here. This one on CBS Sports Network. Hampton at Marshall. Marshall -6, -6.5. Over under of 173.5. High totals here in the CIT semis, Matt. How are you looking to bet Hampton Marshall?
Yeah, it's funny because you don't see 170s very often. You've got 2 games coming up tonight in the 170s and mid-170s. And it's very interesting because you have 2 offenses you have 4 offenses in these games that score a lot of points, and you've got some defenses that don't play any defense whatsoever. Hampton is 10-2 against the spread this year when playing against a team with a winning record. They're not going to be intimidated by Marshall, and along their run, they've only played 1 road game. They've won at NJIT last time, 82-70, in a game where they held NJIT to just 35.5% shooting. Their other wins in this postseason tournament were against Charleston Southern at home and St. Francis of New York at home. So you've got a Hampton team that's going to be very motivated. It's not too often that they would play at the likes of Marshall. This is a team that's already won at Richmond, 86-66, way back in November. They're also a team that's played, William & Mary. They played Coastal Carolina. They played at Cal. So they're not going to be too intimidated by these surroundings. Jermaine Morrow is a really good scorer at 24.7 points per game, and then he's got the likes of Kalen Fisher also helping him. But then you got a Marshall team that's also very good offensively. I mean, when you look at John Elmore, he's setting all sorts of records at Marshall, and you look at this team, they don't play a lot of defense, but they actually have a little bit in this tournament. They beat Presbyterian 83-66. They beat IUPUI 78-73. But if you're looking down the list here, they've played a lot of games in the 80s, especially in the Conference USA, because Marshall's defense isn't very good. 73-82 was their game against Southern Miss in the conference tournament, 82-65 against Rice. There's potential for a lot of points. My only problem with something like this is if you get one of these stretches, maybe a 5 or 6 minute stretch where nobody really scores, or you get very little scoring, then it's going to be hard to get to the 174. You probably missed the value on Marshall at home in this one when it was around 5 for a lot of the week. Now it's 6.5. I'm not sure if there's some value in this game, but if you absolutely have to have some action, maybe I would look to the home team in this one.
Great breakdown, Matt. We got the other CIT semi coming up now. And guys, remember, it's $2 Tuesday. Sportsmemo.com. You get top play from Alex B. Smith tonight for just $2 on the website. It's right there at the front. Also, check out Matt Joseph's play for tonight in the NIT Final Four. It's Texas versus TCU on ESPN primetime, 9:30 Eastern time. He's got a top play on that game. We got 9 o'clock Eastern tip here on CBS Sports Network. Texas Southern versus Green Bay. Green Bay -6. There are a couple -5.5s out there. 176 the total. Green Bay's at home, Matt. How are you looking to bet this one?
So at first I really wanted to jump on Green Bay. We had the winner in Green Bay in their last game at home because they've played really well in terms of being at home, and they're scoring a ton of points. If you look against Bakersfield, a team that's defensively very good defensively, they put up 80 points in an 80-65 win. Against Florida International, who plays no defense whatsoever, they won 98-68, and they went on the road at East Tennessee State and won 102-94 in a game that I really like the over, and of course it went well over. This is a Green Bay team that at home has scored a ton of points. As we said, 80, 98, 82, 82, 70 against Wright State because they don't like to run, and then 82 against Detroit. I like Green Bay at first, but then if you dig into this matchup a little deeper, you see a Texas Southern team that has won at Oregon this year. They won at Baylor this year. They've played a ton of road games. They actually started out their season with 6 straight in the road, because you look right now, they're playing their 4th straight road game in this tournament. They won at Louisiana Monroe, 108-102. They won at Rio Grande, UTRGV, 94-85, and they won at New Orleans, 95-89. So this is a team that doesn't mind playing a bunch of games on the road in a row. They've shot over 50% in 4 of their last 5. As I said for the other game, I don't necessarily like a total this high, but I could see it more in this one than I could the other one. I actually think that there's some value now with the road team. I think Texas Southern won't be intimidated by Wisconsin Green Bay. Texas Southern is 12-9 against the spread on the road, 7-2 against the spread against winning record teams with winning records. I think there's actually some value now with Texas Southern, especially if it gets higher, maybe 6.5 if it gets that high. Certainly at 6, I would definitely look at Texas Southern in this one, because they're not going to be intimidated. They can score a ton of points. Plus, they have a lot of high major transfers on their team. If you look at the likes of Trayvon Reed, he comes over from the SEC. Jeremy Combs, I believe, came over from North Texas. There's a lot of guys on this roster who have played in tough games and certainly won't be intimidated under the spotlight.
Good stuff, Matt. And before we get to the Final Four, you're there in Richmond, Virginia, right?
Yes, we are.
And how's March Madness been treating you overall?
It's been fun. You know, I always spend my first weekend in Vegas. If you're listening to this podcast and you haven't done that yet, I highly recommend it. It's a thing you have to check off as a sports fan. You go to Vegas for the first weekend. You put down a bunch of bets. I got a bunch of futures that are still out there. And it's been a lot of fun. Obviously, we've been following the Virginia run a lot here, and you know, we had some success with Virginia Tech, and ODU and Richmond, or ODU and VCU were in, but they didn't last very long. So yeah, Virginia's been kind of the hotbed for NCAA tournament action so far.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as the radio station goes, you everything's going well at ESPN 950 right there in Richmond.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of stuff on the Final Four, certainly talking to – yesterday I actually had a chance to catch up with the voice of the Auburn Tigers, Rob Bramlett, to get his thoughts on this matchup coming up on Saturday, and we'll be doing some coverage live from Minneapolis, so that'll be a lot of fun in terms of that as well.
Rob Bramlett, you know what I know him for?
The Kick Six.
The Kick Six and the Miracle in Jordan Hare, back-to-back weeks. You remember that?
I do remember that. Well, a lot of people remember the Alabama thing, but I think a lot of people forget about the other one.
Yeah, for sure. And I was actually sitting next to him on the plane back from the Rose Bowl when we lost. I went to Auburn, so when Auburn lost to Florida State, he was next to me on the plane back from LA back to Atlanta. So that was a fun time. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he's a very nice guy, provide a lot of good information. It's up on our website, espnrichmond.com, on the audio vault. Certainly, you'll hear my interview with him, and we're doing some UVA stuff today. So if you're looking for extra coverage on UVA and Auburn, my station will be one of the stations, obviously the Charlottesville station, stuff like that. But we've got a lot of interviews that'll help you get some more in-depth information on that matchup.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Good stuff to check out there at Richmond 950 ESPN. We got, the 5 seed, Auburn Tigers versus the 1 seed, Virginia Cavaliers, laying 5.5. There is 1.5 out there in the marketplace, but mostly 5.5s out there. That's Virginia laying in this one. 130s are knocked out. We're seeing mostly 131s as this total gets pushed up as well, Matt. I'm sure you have an opinion here, Virginia, Auburn, 2 teams you know pretty well. How are you looking to bet it, man?
So I'm still looking at some of this stuff, but I'll give you my early thoughts on this one in terms of I really wanted to jump on Virginia when it started. I was hoping for a little bit lower because I think the matchup I'll be watching is UVA's offense against Auburn's defense. Yeah, Auburn's defense has been playing better as of late, and they certainly had a good game plan against Kentucky, but when I watch Virginia, I feel like they're going to score every time down. And certainly with Kyle Guy starting to shoot the ball better, and you had Ty Jerome, and DeAndre Hunter's not going to look as disconnected as he was in the Purdue game. Kihei Clarke, Mamadi Diakite's scoring some baskets. My question is, can Auburn slow down UVA's offense? If you think they can, then you probably are going to lean to the under. If you think that UVA is going to score at will, which I kind of do, I think I'm looking at the over. The problem is betting an over in a Virginia game is very difficult, as you all know. If you look at the trends for UVA, they've gone under 19 of their 36 games. They've actually seen, which I think is surprising, 11 contests where the total's in the 130s. You would figure with a team like this that they're going to see a lot of 120s, some 110s. They're never going to see 140s. Virginia, I think, is going to be able to score. The question is, can Bruce Pearl get the likes of Jared Harper open? Can he get Javon McCormick open? Can they get anything from their inside guys? Because the pack line defense will try and choke that off. And can anybody have a Carson Edwards-like performance? I don't necessarily know. I'm going to kind of wait a little bit since it's only Tuesday, maybe let the market dictate a little bit what I might do. But early on, I think Virginia scores at will, and so in that case, I might be looking at the over in this one.
And Matt, what do you mean by pack line defense?
The pack line defense for Virginia is where they basically, and they illustrate it well on television, they basically set up a bubble around the lane, and they basically don't let you get inside, which is not so much a problem for Auburn because, as you saw, they'll chuck it from 35 feet away, and you saw Carson Edwards basically do that. The question is, can Auburn get anything inside, or will they basically just be doing some long-range threes? I don't know how comfortable they're going to be in this pace. I feel like Auburn, despite the fact they played a slower pace game against Kentucky, they're going to go even slower against Virginia. Virginia may get open shots, but they're going to make you work 20, 25 seconds on the shot clock to get them. So can Auburn play at this uncomfortably slow pace, and can they not settle for long-range shots? Can they work their offense and get some open shots? That'll be the big thing. I don't necessarily know if they will, and of course I don't think Vegas does as well, because 5.5 is what you're seeing out there spread-wise.
No, and I don't disagree with anything you're necessarily saying, but since Auburn lost to Kentucky on February 23rd, and they've gone on this road on this run, Auburn hasn't lost in the month of March. And something that I've noticed, Matt, with their offense, it went from more of, I don't want to say it was just more not necessarily as much planned, more chucking up threes like you touched on. And since they've gone on this run, the ball has been in the hands of Jared Harper a much larger percentage of the time when they're on offense. And you'll see they just get the ball into his hands and he's out there, and then he just looks to drive, and nobody has been able to stay in front of him. Now, he might miss his layup, he might miss his shots, and he'll distribute a lot of the time, but he is able to penetrate every defense he's faced in the month of March. And I think that's a fascinating matchup as far as, is Virginia really going to be able to stop that? Because nobody has in this run that Auburn's been able to put on. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think Kihei Clarke is an underrated part of this game. I've been a little hard on Kihei Clarke here in Richmond, mostly because I think they're trusting a lot in a freshman, but he's played really good defense. And the key for Auburn, I think, is on those drives, can they force the guy to come over and kick out for an open three-pointer, or will Virginia just simply swallow the guy up? I think Kihei Clarke on on Harper will be a fascinating matchup, but I think people are going to underrate what Clarke does defensively because they see, he has some ugly turnover numbers. I mean, look, we're talking about the Mamadi Diakite play, but without Kihei Clarke's pass, that play never happens, and that's a pass that's not necessarily very easy. So I think Clarke's defense on him will be very important, and we'll see how much and how quick maybe Clarke gets into foul trouble, and then you're going to kind of have UVA scrambling a little bit.
So you think that UVA is actually going to go at it with Clarke just playing one-on-one defense on Harper?
Yes, I think they're going to basically say it's kind of what they did with Carson Edwards. They said, Kihei, get under him, be an annoyance, and do whatever you can to slow him down. Now, he's not going to guard Edwards out 35 feet. And when Edwards starts hitting threes like that, then they went to a little bit of size and length with DeAndre Hunter. But yeah, I think they're going to let Kihei Clarke kind of go at Harper and then see what happens, in that first TV timeout, that second TV timeout. Tony Bennett's really good at making adjustments and playing the matchup. So maybe we see a little bit more Jack Salt. Maybe we see less Jack Salt. Maybe we see more Braxton Key in this matchup. And obviously Braxton Key's time at Alabama, he saw Auburn, so he knows a little bit about this Tigers team.
Man, this is great stuff, Matt. And I'll tell you, if they try to go one-on-one against Harper, I think that's a mistake because I do think Virginia's the more talented team. Likely, it shows it here in the spread. But that one matchup on Harper, nobody's been able to stop him. So I doubt that they're going to have any success going one-on-one against Jared Harper and keeping him out of the lane.
Well, I think what they'll do is they'll funnel him in and basically say, all right, Mamadi will come over and chip and help. And I think that if Jack Salt's in there, he'll help. And I basically think they almost want him to drive because that's right where the midst of their defense is. And so if he's going to keep doing it and keep trying to do it, he may have some success. But I think ultimately Virginia wants him to do it so they can bring him into the rest of their defense.
Man, great stuff, Matt. And guys, check out Matt's play on sportsmemo.com. Also the coupon code MATT69, that's MATT 69 at checkout for his 7-day all-access pass. You'll get all of his college basketball plays, all of his MLB plays at sportsmemo.com for less than $10 a day. That's MATT69 coupon code at checkout for his 7-day all-access pass. It's also $2 Tuesday. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, April 2nd, top play on the board from Alex B. Smith is just $2. We got one game left here, Matt. 8:49 Eastern tip. Number 3 seed Texas Tech, number 2 seed Michigan State. Both of these games on CBS Saturday night. 132.5 the total. Michigan State minus 2.5.
Yeah, and this is an interesting game in its own right because Michigan State obviously played really well and beat Duke in their game. And Michigan State, I mean, look, it's March. It's hard to bet against Izzo, and you've given Izzo a little extra time to prepare for a Texas Tech team that did what very few have been able to do and kind of choke off Gonzaga. Like, they basically made Gonzaga shoot from the perimeter, and Gonzaga couldn't hit their long-range shots. And you look at Texas Tech's results in this tournament. 75-69 over Gonzaga, 63-44 over Michigan, 78-58 over Buffalo, and then 72-57 over Northern Kentucky. They want to play a lower style game. They want to play a defensive game. And I think that Michigan State's offense is going to present some challenges. Now, I'll admit this up front. As a mid-major guy, these are two teams that I don't spend a ton of time with, so it's going to be good this week to kind of go over some of the stats, some of the articles on both of these teams, because that's part of the whole education process. I know it's towards the end of the season, but you have 36 games, 37 games to look at what these two teams have done. Texas Tech is not as good offensively, but, Michigan State's defense has shown at times that they could be a little bit leaky. I'll be fascinated to see the pace of this game. I'll be fascinated to see if Texas Tech, what are they going to do with Cassius Winston? How are they going to stop him defensively? Because Cassius Winston is kind of the head of the snake. If they want to stop him, then will McQuaid start hitting some long-range shots? Will Kenny Goins, who didn't play that great against Duke, will he be the guy that gets involved? So I'll be interested to see how Chris Beard, who's done one of the best coaching jobs in America, how he kind of attacks this Michigan State team and what he wants to take away from them.
Matt, great stuff as always, man. Anything else you want to throw out before we shut this down?
No, I think that tonight, look, everybody's going to talk about the Final Four this weekend, but I think tonight you'll see some high-level basketball, whatever it is you watch, whether it's the CIT or the NIT, and certainly, as we've talked about on this podcast, there is some value tonight if you want to get away from the bigger games coming up on Saturday.
Absolutely, and find that value with Matt's top play on sportsmemo.com. It's the NIT game, Texas versus TCU. Also, you'll get that with his week-long 7-day all-access, and you can get that for less than $10 a day using the coupon code MATT. That's MATT 69 at checkout. You get his 7-day all-access for just $69, less than $10 a day, using the coupon code MATT69 at checkout. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Best of luck with your bets tonight. We'll be back tomorrow talking soccer and golf betting with Nick Barrowman.